Alright, Fundamentals of Game Engine Design, CS4900, Section 112, Assignment 3. This is the GUI assignment. Here I made the background purple, just to kind of see how that works. And in this menu, we have options for changing the direction you're looking and for your position. So you can change your X position, Y, Z, all that. And then you also have reset position and reset rotation to set them back to the defaults, which are what they are right now. To show that these rotations, if I rotate along this x-axis, you can, well, actually that's fine. If I rotate around the x-axis, you can see my orientation relative to the x-axis hasn't changed. So that's, standard rotating around the x-axis. But after you've rotated somewhat around, like you can go all the way to pi, or I'll try and be around pi half. And then if you change your y rotation, you can see it rotates around the y-axis. But if you instead do the relative y, it will be your y. So what's up on the screen is the y-axis. Well, that's like the direction I look if I change the y. So yeah, you can change all this. And that's I guess everything required for a B. At least that's what it said. You can still fly around, just like you normally could. I didn't remove that functionality. But once anything here gets clicked, it resets you. And that's because the changing of your position or orientation is only done whenever these update, which is when in the code when they become true, or the return value is true. For I also have used alternate skybox, so that just changes skybox, which is pretty cool. I have this torso that follows you around. It doesn't follow you. It follows you if you use the sliders. But it doesn't follow you if you just fly around normally. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of did that. And I think that's everything that I changed. Uh, Important things that I changed actually for my environment. Because last time my terrain was very dark and shadows weren't working. Now you can see the shadow here. The point light's over there somewhere, which is I think where the sun would be for the other skybox. But right, yeah. So I guess the issue with why the lighting wasn't quite working before was the default shader for OpenGL like 3.2 or 4 whatever it is, 3 point something, had it referred to texture 2D, but that's been deprecated. So it just have to change that to just texture, and that does the same thing. And yeah, that shader doesn't work even with the compatibility profile, which I've had that problem before. I guess with all the Windows drivers, they just probably don't even give a warning for that, but then on Linux it just refuses to compile it. So I was actually using OpenGL 2. So if I use OpenGL 3 or higher, I think I'm using 4 right now, or point whatever, with the right shaders, everything works fine. Okay, so for the code, in the headers we have, there's just a utility function, update camera position, that's because that's called from multiple places. We have all these floats to store the position and rotation of the camera. And then the torso is just that with a offset in the x direction. So we also save pointer to the torso so that we can modify it. And also keep pointers to both skyboxes. So yeah, here's update camera position. You can just see it rotates. It sets it back to the identity, and then rotates it based on whatever those values that ImGUI sets, whatever those are set to. So these are referred to later in the lambda for ImGUI. The destructor, we'll get back to that later. Load map, that's just initializing those values. You can see we load 2 skyboxes, or skybox image names. And obviously you can set these to whatever you want. The first one is what it will be when you start it, and then the second one is the alternate. So winner is what I switched to when I was demoing it. So yeah, we create 2 skyboxes, only push 1 onto the world list. It's because the other we just save here to swap out with it later. Which you'll see how I do that, but it's maybe not the best way to do that. But since I won't be using this version, assignment 3, for my final project, I don't think it'll be a problem. Here's the torso. That's pretty standard. Just saves the torso pointer so that we can modify it later. For the GUI, here's setting the background color to purple. It's very transparent as well. And yeah, here we have the resets. So if the reset button is pressed, then it does that. It sets everything back to 0. These are the sliders. The sliders work the same as buttons. They will also return true if they're being interacted with. They're bitwise ORed for they're bitwise ORed and then update the position. So if any of them are true, then it'll check and or it'll update the camera position. And the reason it has to be bitwise OR because if it's I set the first one to logical OR here. If they're not bitwise OR, you'll get the short circuits, right? So this is how it's supposed to be, but if I move this one, it'll actually short circuit the OR and prevent any of the other ones from appearing for any time while this is being updated. So they're pretty much all gone if I move it fast enough. So yeah, these have to be bitwise. And then yeah, this is what I was talking about. Isaiah is probably not the best way to do it. It's definitely not. For use alternate skybox, since you can't just set it equal when you just have the pointer because it went out of scope. So I believe when it goes out of scope, the copy constructor goes out of scope. But anyway, what I do is I just mem copy the alternate skybox into the primary skybox, which works, and it doesn't crash. I could probably, I mean, I'll run it with Valgrind, and then in the destructor I have to remove it from the world list so that it doesn't crash when you quit it. I'll run it with Valgrind just to see if there's any like any reads out of bounds or any writes out of bounds. Uh, did it paused on pause? What are you talking about? Okay, so it hasn't crashed yet, so that's good. I don't know why it paused there on SDL initialized. And yeah, it's very slow because it's running under Valgrind. So yeah, if I do this, Valgrind does not give me an exception. So I guess it's memory safe. In terms of, I mean, it won't cause any crashes. It probably leaked it. Some of these bytes are probably leaked by me. Anyway, yeah, I think that's acceptable. Um, so yeah, that's my project, or that's my for my assignment 3. And yeah, that should be everything.